What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Yankees Avenue Show. Actually, welcome back to the Yankees Avenue Show. A little bit of a hiatus post-Yankees elimination. We kind of got all those sad feelings out. But I guess maybe we'll reinvest them today. But I'm Patrick Hennessy. That's Dan Rourke. Dan, how are we feeling for the first off-season episode?
Pat, it is absolutely very good to be back. I do have to let everybody know, and I want to kind of take a statement back that I made like probably 10 episodes ago about a certain ep being my flu game. No, this is my flu game. I'm going through it, everybody. I don't know what's good. No COVID, no plague, none of that. Just a little cold or something. But, Pat, how can I let that drag me down when the Yankees improved from a wild card bounce last year to making it all the way to the ALCS this year? So what do I have to be sad about, bro? I'm chilling. I'm in a great mood. Back in the Yankees Avenue Show. We got a great structure in the front office that we can trust. And we're back, baby. How you doing?
Yeah, listen, bro. I think we talked about this a little bit before we kind of hit that nice little red record button. It's been a nice little break. Without Yankees baseball, it's been a long season. Obviously, we wanted them to win the World Series, but now that they didn't, we took a little bit of time to kind of just like soak in our thoughts a little bit. But now the reason we're back before the World Series ended, and we will be back for 2 episodes a week during the offseason, but had to do a little emergency episode because the Yankees had their post-mortem press conference with Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone. Much of the same, but I guess we're going to reignite some feelings that we had and some of the concerns that we had following the Yankees elimination. So I say we kind of just jump right into it here because there are a few specific quotes that I do want to bring up. And one of them, I think that we could kind of start off with the whole IKF situation, right? Because I feel like that was one of the huge talking points for Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone today. And the first quote that I do want to bring up in terms of IKF is from Aaron Boone. He said, on the whole, which I think that this is an insane quote, by the way, on the whole, I think IKF was by and large excellent defensively and one of the top in the league. He says, range, turning plays into outs, transfers, getting to a ball, all go into the measure of IKF. Dan, this is an insane thing to say about a guy who you pretty much couldn't really start at shortstop in the postseason on a consistent basis just because of how bad he was. Let's also not forget he was one of the main factors in the Yankees losing that game right? With not being able to catch Glaber's little toss up there to complete the double play. But I think to say that IKF, listen, it's one thing to publicly degrade the guy, which is obviously something that the Yankees shouldn't do, especially if they plan on having him on the roster next year. But it's another thing to do what they did today and basically still keep him high on that pedestal, refusing to admit defeat, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, a lot of the quotes today were weird. IKF, a lot of those were very bad. It's quite clear, and we knew this going in, that the Yankees, they do this every single year. They're really not going to bash anybody, and we saw that with Josh Donaldson. Really, anybody that's currently on their roster, whether or not they're going to be on the team next year or not, they're going to talk highly of them. We saw that also with Aaron Hicks as well, because, you don't want to bash somebody you're going to maybe try to move in a trade. But yeah, I mean, IKF, the fact that they're still riding this, man, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I understand the defensive run saved. They're there. He was technically, I think, like a top 5 shortstop in that regard. But flip it to outs above average, which for infielders, most people that look at metrics consider to be the better option, outs above average. He ranked, I think, 27th among all defensive shortstops. And it's not like the eye test backed anything up. I mean, we went over it many, many times in almost probably every other episode. IKF was just not good defensively this year. He was not good, period. And the Yankees they're not able to admit their mistakes, whether it's with IKF or with Josh Donaldson, that whole trade. And I want to give a little credit to some of the reporters today in that conference, particularly Sweeney Murdy, and he's always awesome. Brian Hoka was good as well. Those guys and one or two others asked some actually pretty hard hitting questions. They did. Also, shout out Michael Kay on his show. Not sure if you saw the interview with Boone. He was kind of going at him as well. The scary thing, and this was kind of our biggest fear, you get a lot of run it back vibes with what's been said the last couple of days, kind of just the post-mortem vibe since the season ended almost 2 weeks ago. While I will hope and hold out for changes, and there will be some, it's quite scary, Pat, that they somewhat still believe in the roster that just did what we just saw.
Yeah.
Or didn't do, I should say.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest fear for that comes from what Brian Cashman said rather than what Aaron Boone said. Because listen, at the end of the day, like Boone doesn't really construct the roster, so his job is to really just hype up the players that he has to work with. So I can't really knock him for kind of like being like, yo, Donaldson and IKF, like they could return to form. But Cashman is my biggest concern, right? because you hear what he said about that IKF Donaldson deal, which I think every Yankee fan can agree it's one of his worst ever. He said, I think that Kiner was kind of along the lines of what we expected, which is an insane thing to say considering that his
Offensively,
defense.
sure, but you
Yeah,
told everybody you're getting one of the best offensive shortstops in the league, and
yeah.
besides the fact that you're trying to pretend like he still is, he wasn't.
Yeah, and then in Josh's case, he said, both an elite defender and a typically high-end offensive player. Josh's offense struggled. The offense wasn't as good, doesn't mean it can't return. Now, that's also an insane thing to say coming from Cashman, because that leads me to believe that the Yankees are fully confident with running it back with IKF and Donaldson again next year. There's nothing from the press conference today that kind of like made me believe like, yo, I mean, we kind of even got better quotes in last year's press conference when Cashman said like his top priority was getting a high level shortstop, right? Even though that didn't happen, but we didn't even get those types of vibes from the one this year. It kind of just sounded like, yo, if we can't find anything better for like our little bargain bin offseason plan, we're completely content with running it back with IKF and Donaldson because we think Donaldson can, for some reason, they think he could return to whatever form he was with the Blue Jays like 7-8 years ago. Don't know why that's even a possibility. The dude's pushing 37, I believe. And then IKF, you kind of know what you're going to get out of him. I can't see the offense improving anymore. Maybe his defense improves a little bit, but I don't see it happening. So I think the fact that we see just this level of complacency from Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman, it's definitely concerning. And like you said, it does give back like those run it back vibes. And I'm not going to lie to you, Dan, like the fact that they waited this long for the post-mortem press conference gave me a little hope that maybe like Cashman would be gone or maybe Boone would be gone, maybe both. But now I think we've kind of come to terms like Brian Cashman hyped up Boone like it was nobody's business. Cashman did say that he doesn't have like an official new contract yet, but I think it's kind of expected that they will come to terms on one. But yeah, I think overall we did get serious run it back vibes.
Yeah, and I'll say I think Boone was fine today. There was nothing that stood out on either side when I was watching that press conference. He struggled quite a bit, I think, when being asked about, I think it was the IKF question, maybe it was the analytics that backed it up. I've never heard more knows out of somebody than Aaron Boone the last 2 days, by the way, which I ain't talking shit about. I do that myself all the time. But there were a couple times where he didn't really seem to have an answer for things. But as for like, there was no quote that really appeared all that blasphemous like there was with Cashman. And we're
kind of like touching on like quotes from Boone that like didn't really stand out to you too much. I have two that kind of like stand out to me from Boone in terms of just kind of like the feeling within the organization, right? And one of these is Boone said we are a very well run and buttoned up organization. Now this is one of those things where it's kind of just like it irks me a little bit just because me as a person. I don't care if the Yankees are a buttoned up organization. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things that goes back to what I always talk about. Like I don't care about the Yankee way, right? I don't care about the clean cut. I don't care about the facial hair policy. I don't care about like all like the things that go into making a Yankee a quote unquote Yankee. If you're not winning baseball games, because at the end of the day, none of it matters, right? So I don't care if you're a well-run, buttoned-up organization, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you're not winning. And then also, this is the one that really stood out to me. This goes on like the buttoned-up organization thing. Aaron Boone said that he was not worried about his job status at the end of the season. And I think this is the one that stands out to me the most, just because it's like it's the level of zero accountability ever being had in the organization as of late, right? I look at it as like, why is Aaron Boone so secure in his job status where he has done zero? He has done nothing in his tenure with the Yankees to determine success in any way, right? Nothing has made him a successful manager. He hasn't even made the World Series. So the fact that he didn't have like the slightest concern for his job status just leads me to believe that the level that determines success in the Yankees organization nowadays is no longer a World Series title. And I think that Aaron Boone is aware of that now. And I think that the organization as a whole is aware of that.
I don't really put too much stock into either of them. The first one you mentioned, the very well run and button up organization, that's kind of just like a throwaway quote to me. I understand what you're saying about the whole Yankee way. I don't think that's exactly what he was getting at there, but I could be wrong. The job security thing, I don't look at it as necessarily he's saying he's entitled to have his job back in 2023, no matter how the outcome of 2022 went. I think it's more so like it's just not on his mind. He can't be thinking about that. He's more so concerned about winning a World Series because he wants to win, not to save his job necessarily. So I mean, like I think to me that kind of makes sense. I thought Boone was pretty kind of just bland today in a way, which is fine. I don't really have a problem with, like I've said this for the longest time. Some people get annoyed about it, but it's true. Boone to me is not what's wrong with this team. Like what we saw in that press conference today isn't what's wrong with this team. It's the guy that followed him, and Brian Cashman. I think Brian Cashman came off very, I don't want to say like poorly today. Just there's nothing that you could take at it that would restore faith in him as your GM.
100%.
He was the one that looked bad today, not Boone.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, speaking of Cashman, one thing that did kind of like stick out to me the most, and I think is going to be crucial going into the offseason, is when he was asked about the ALCS, right? In terms of like the Yankees not being able to overcome the Astros, and he basically admitted going into the series that he knew the Astros were the better team. Did you kind of catch that?
Yeah, that was fine to me, actually.
Yeah, no, but it goes beyond that, right? Because now Brian Cashman has admitted that the Astros were the better team very clearly going into that ALCS, and the Yankees were the underdog. So now what sticks out to me is, what are you going to do this offseason to make sure next year, if the Yankees face the Astros again, that we are the better team? Because by admitting that the Astros were the better team this year, you look dumb, right? Because you didn't assemble a team that was better than the Houston Astros. Oh, you could blame injuries all you want. Even if the Yankees were at full strength, even if the Yankees were at full strength, I still don't know if they were a better team than
we agree on that. But what scares me is it seems like they may actually like think that there's a valid excuse that the injuries they had, if say Benintendi and DJ King, which in a way is a fair argument to make it closer, but no matter what, in the end, on paper, going into the year and going into October, the Astros were the better team. And it ultimately comes down to the roster construction, which falls solely on Brian Cashman.
Yes.
His fault.
And that's exactly my thing. It's like, now that you publicly admit the fact that you are not a better team than the Houston Astros, they didn't even throw out the crapshoot thing. That wasn't even a thing that was thrown out this year, just because like they knew they weren't a better team.
If the Phillies won last night, I bet they would have. They
100%, 100%, dude. But that's my thing. It's like, I really want to see what they do this offseason to push themselves past the Astros, or if they truly think that IKF and Donaldson and Hicks, if these guys are the ones that are going to be able to beat us past the Astros, because they weren't able to do it this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And another thing with the press conference, a large focus of it was Aaron Judge. I got to say, man, it seems very weird the way they've talked about him ever since the negotiations fell through back in March. Even today, just they don't, and I understand there's negotiations that, you got to play the optics side of things. You don't want to like reveal your hand, but in a way you kind of should reveal your hand when talking about your superstar player, a generational talent, a guy that most organizations only dream of drafting and developing the way they have. And that's one of the few successes of Cashman's tenure and just his people drafting Aaron Judge. The way they talk about him, man, and like wanting to bring him back, it's so casual. And it just doesn't seem like the way they even talked about Cole back in 19, like that's how you should talk about Judge right now. Like he's been your guy already. Treat him as such.
Bro, it's really weird. The Judge situation, today kind of made it a little bit even weirder for me. Just because Sweeney Murdy, I think, asked a question. Shout out to him, by the way. I think he asked the best questions today. But he asked Cashman if there was like any sort of animosity between like the Yankees leaking that Judge information prior to the season. And the way Cashman kind of went about it was like, oh, you could ask Aaron about that. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, he knew that the information was going to come out. It just seemed like it seems like there's animosity between the two sides. And I don't want to I don't want to go on the record of saying that, but I'm going on the record of saying, because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, right? But just from the vibes we've been getting mostly from the Yankee side, I mean, Judge is never going to reveal his hand at any point. But from what we've gotten from the Yankee side of things, it feels like there's a disconnect in one way or another. And I don't know if it's money related. I don't know if it's just emotional invest. I don't know what it is, bro, but there's something off between the two sides. And at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if Aaron Judge doesn't end up a New York Yankee.
I would be. I still would be shocked. I'll tell you this. I do believe in the Yankees that they'll offer him a good enough deal to get it done. I think the only scenario where he does leave is if Judge is straight up set on going to the Giants or just leaving New York. Still can't imagine that to be the case, despite what we're talking about now and valid reasons in doing so, where he is probably pissed at the Yankees and there just isn't a great relationship between them. That I understand, because with the Cashman revealing the offer last year and just overall arbitration and just kind of how they've treated him over the last like 18 months, it seems. I would be pissed too if I were Judge. But at the same time, understand what you're giving up. Generational player for the New York Yankees, number retired. You're on a Hall of Fame pace. That all means a whole lot more being a Yankee. And I know you may not agree with that because you don't exactly see eye to eye with I do. Being a Yankee is still a very special thing, especially when you're talking about your status as a legend long term. If he goes to San Francisco, I'm sure he'll enjoy himself being back home. That's great. What do stars always say? I mean, I think who said it? Was it Darryl Strawberry or was it Doc Gooden? Somebody went out west after staying in New York or after coming up to New York. I think it was Darryl Strawberry. And they said it was their biggest regret of their life. And I think I'm quite confident that would happen with Judge if he went out west to San Francisco. I do trust that the Yankees are going to offer him enough though to hopefully keep him here, which I think is going to be $320 million over 8 years, $40 million a year.
Sure. I mean, bro, I think that the Judge situation is weird. And I think we kind of talked about this like during the season. For me, I'm still sticking with the fact that Judge has two options right now, right? It's either one, he leaves and becomes Robinson Cano, or two, he stays and becomes Derek Jeter. Like that's basically like the two options that I'm weighing in my mind right now. Cause he could go out west and he could kind of still be a solid player for how many more years, I don't know, but he's not going to be the same level of superstar. And he's obviously not going to have like that Yankee generational factor to him anymore. If he stays, yeah, I could definitely see him being like the next Jeter. You know what I mean? It all depends how like the rest of his career goes, but I'm assuming he'd be named captain. His number would probably be retired eventually. So
Without a doubt.
This is obviously something that we'll talk about at nauseum throughout the offseason, just because of how many rumors are going to be tossed around and whatnot. But I think overall right now, my vibes towards the Yankees offseason, they're not promising. But I didn't really have that high expectations going into it just because we know how they operate, right? We kind of had a good idea that they were going to run it back. And my biggest fear now is that now that we know that Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone are basically officially back, even though Cashman isn't officially back, I'm banking on him being officially back. My biggest fear is that they do re-sign Judge, keep IKF, keep Donaldson, and basically run back. Maybe have like a couple random
Resign
additions.
Benintendi.
Yeah, re-sign Benintendi, a couple maybe minor additions to the bullpen, maybe like a random bat or something, and basically run back the same team that they did last year because we know how things are going to go, right? Like Yankee fans, once they do re-sign Judge, hopefully, bro, people are going to go insane. People are going to be so happy. It's basically
And they'll
like
think that's enough to win back the crowd and they're good to go.
Yeah, it's like throwing a dog a biscuit, right? And they think that we're going to be satisfied. And I think a lot of people will. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I do want to say one thing to kind of, uplift the depressing vibes a little bit. No matter how Cashman truly feels, he wasn't going to reveal his hand. I mean, we talk about it with the trades that could possibly go down with Donaldson, Hicks, or even if they want to move IKF or possibly non-tender him, which is an option. But they never talk bad about the guys that are currently on the roster. They don't want to devalue them even further than they already are. So that's one thing. Two, they mention all these different possibilities about, could be a competition at shortstop. They even mentioned the free agent negotiations. In the end, we really don't know what's going to happen until we see what the market is, right? I mean, at this time last year, we were talking about Carlos Correa getting $300 million. He ends up signing for 85 or something, or not 85, like 30 mil over 3.
Yeah.
Weird shit can go down. Players can fall into your lap. Brian Cashman can surprise us. While he's made many piss poor moves, he also has made a few solid ones. The Yankees do have a good amount of money coming off the books. Potentially, they'll have over $100 million to spend if they cut some of Hicks's salary and then some other moves here and there. They have money to spend. They have assets to trade. They can, if they put all their assets and money into this lineup with the pitching staff that they have and a couple supplemental bullpen pieces, we're going to be in the mix next year. So if that's something that, like, if you're worried about, the Yankees are just going to be ass next year, like, no, we're probably going to win the division. But are we going to make the move that puts us over the hump of the Houston Astros?
It's always what it is, though, right?
With Judge, with bringing back Judge, like the conversation we just had, that's the move that, all right, we'll probably win the division next year. Just be in that playoff mix like we've been. You got to make the next move, though. And sneak peek, watch my Yankees offseason blueprint next week. It is the best one I've ever done. I've written out the script already. Really going to get into the financials of things, a lot of detail. The Yankees have to get past just signing Aaron Judge and bring in either a Trey Turner, Brandon Nimmo. They have to honestly upgrade from Jose Trevino, who I love. Go get Sean Murphy. There's many, many things to do. It all centers around the lineup, and that's Cashman's job. Improve the offense, and let's see if he does it, man. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, I
Because
mean,
it's
we'll
no matter
see.
what, we're stuck with him. It seems he's our guy. I mean, we'll probably be 105 years old, bro, in 2105, whatever, doing this show, talking about how Brian Cashman pissed us off and had a shitty post-mortem press conference.
Yeah,
It's a
bro.
yearly
And
tradition at this rate.
it's even crazier because we watched the World Series, right? And listen, as of now, it's 3-2. The Astros are
I've
one
been
game
enjoying
away
this
from
World
winning
Series,
it
by
all.
the way, more
I'm
than ever.
enjoying it too. But it kind of just sparks like really bad memories of. I think it was last offseason when Bryce Harper said that he wanted to be a Yankee, right? He at least wanted discussion, and Brian Cashman wouldn't even give it to him, bro. Like the
I
fact that
know.
you wouldn't give Bryce freaking Harper a discussion when he wanted to be a Yankee, grew up a Yankee fan, it makes me sick.
So, like, when I was watching that press conference before, bro, I was imagining an alternate reality where I was like some badass reporter that gave no fucks. And if I was in that room, I would ask this question. I would be like, they'd call him and they'd be like, Jason Zill would be like, Dan in the back. And I'd say, Brian, how can you sleep at night seeing what Bryce Harper is doing for Philly in the World Series right now? And he'd get some arrogant ass fucking answer. And then my boy Sweeney Murdy would come in, back me up, and be like, well, this, and that. Like, fuck yeah, Sweeney. And then he'd look all flabbergasted because, yo, let me turn this to another compliment for Sweeney Murdy. That's why I fucking love that dude, because he does have the balls to go back at him. Not just with an initial good question, but he's one of the only guys that really kind of like, he's done it in the past when talking about his lack of big pitching acquisitions. He kind of did it today where he's just trying to get a sense of, yo, what the fuck is going on within, whether it's the analytics department or just the mindset behind IKF, Josh Donaldson, whatever. We need more guys like Sweeney Murdy. Kay is pretty good at it, but honestly, the rest of them, yo, like you can tell they want to be invited to the Yankee charity dinner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's
And we need
exactly
less reporters like that.
that was
More
going
like
to be
Sweeney.
like my counter argument is that I'm sure a lot of these people are like scared for their job
Then you're
security.
awful at your job. You're awful at your job.
Yeah, but I think that's a problem, and I think that's like why the journalism industry is kind of like faltering because like bro, they need to ask the hard hitting questions. I think guys like Brian Hoke, Sweeney Murdy, like they're solidified in their role. I think
Yeah.
a lot of these others are kind of just like playing it safe and making sure they don't step on any toes, right? And I think it's a problem. But what are we gonna do about it, bro? Maybe they should just invite us. Can you imagine we get like 20 minutes with Brian Cashman?
Bro, give us a little fucking press idea with the Yanks Ave show on here. Maybe we'll do a little unhinged in the corner.
Yo, Dan, completely off topic, but yo, I have to bring this up.
I know you're bringing it up.
Drake's new album?
Haven't
Big
listened
fan,
to it.
huh?
Haven't listened
All right.
to it. I heard Rihanna dropped a new song though.
I'm gonna give my quick 30-second hot take. Because I'm sure most people watching, huge Drake fans. I don't see why not. Leave your album review in the comments. But yo, listen, I would say it's one of Drake's top 3 albums of all time, easily album of the year. Drake basically, I don't know like how like into it you are, but his last album was like dance, techno music. People completely shitted on it. I kind of liked it. It had like some replay value, but he basically took all the criticism from that album, and I guess his last one too. But he basically turned it into like the Drake project that everyone's been clamoring for with 21 Savage, just pure rap genius.
Bring him in
bro.
the front office, baby. Hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. You said he took everything that everyone's been clamoring for and actually did it.
100%.
Wouldn't that be
100%.
nice? And see how that works out? Best
bro,
album of all time, you said? I got a rebuttal, though.
I was going to say, like, comparing it to, like, the Yankee situation, that's basically if Brian Cashman took this offseason, went out and signed Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, Jacob deGrom, and basically created an absolute unit for 2023. That's what it would be like.
You have to watch my offseason blueprint coming out next week. It's so good. You just reminded me of it again. But I have an artist for you that you can turn into a real man if you listen to and cut out this bullshit with Drake, which I do have a couple of his songs. I have a couple of songs in my playlist, but there's only one musician that a man needs, and that is the King of Rock EP, Elvis motherfucking Presley, baby. I have watched that movie so many times. Every time I'm in the car, going for a walk around town with my AirPods in, I'm listening to Elvis. It has totally changed my life, and I recommend you tune in as well.
I haven't seen the movie. Wait, you bought it, right? Can you like share it with me?
Oh, I thought we were gonna watch it together. Fuck.
Oh no, we could watch it.
You should stay over my crib sometime. Bet.
Okay.
Smoke a little Boubange, or you don't do that shit. All right, well, hey.
Wait, weren't you Elvis for Halloween?
Fuck yeah, y'all throw a pick up in the B-roll right now.
Yeah.
That'll probably be the only fucking B-roll, but actually maybe I'll play some quotes or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. Hey, good app. Return app of the year.
Solid app. Moving forward though, like you guys are gonna listen. We only had a small hiatus. We're back. The next episode will be next Friday, November 11th, 11/11. And moving forward, every Monday and Friday, we're back every Monday and Friday morning, 10 a.m. I believe it is. And we're gonna be here, bro.
That
throughout
actually,
the
I
offseason.
might change that. I was thinking about not a huge difference, but it might come out 9 a.m. But yeah, no. So back Monday and Friday, not an episode this coming Monday, but starting, Friday, a
11
week from
11.
today, November 11th. That'll 2 days a week, back to normal. Dan and Pat in your living
We
room,
love
in
you.
your car, in your, wherever. We love you. Dan and Pat
We
signing
love you
off,
so
huh?
much.
See you guys next time. Fuck Brian Cashman. Just kidding. Can't say that. Yeah, I can. Because I have
No, you can.
balls. Let's go, Yankees.